If you've been following me and my content, then you would know the importance of values for a happy and a fulfilled life. This is part 4 of how to discover what we really value. The 2 steps that I discovered in the previous episodes were: step 1, start by observing all your likes and dislikes. Step 2, introspection. Understand the causes and the reasons of all your likes and dislikes, of all your evaluations and judgments. But the process of introspection is not that easy as some may think. It requires a very focused approach of getting to the bottom of things, as the way I'd illustrated in the previous episodes. Step 3 is learning how to think. This requires such deep analysis that right now I can only touch upon the topic very briefly. I covered this extensively in my Logic of Thinking course. Thinking can never be an automatic function. In any moment of life, we are free to think or evade that effort. Thinking requires a state of full, focused awareness. The act of focusing can never be automatic. We have to willfully use our mind. To think is a choice and a skill that must be learned. Thinking is a delicate, difficult process that cannot be performed unless our goal is to genuinely obtain knowledge. Thinking uses a method of logic. Very simply put, thinking is a process of defining identity and discovering causal connections. Thinking is an act by which we reach to the essence of things and then conceptualize them correctly. The next step, and a very important step, is to not just think, but to think in writing. Writing helps us to put the case forward more strategically, orderly, and clearly. It brings order not only on paper but in our minds as well. It helps us retain information and then refer to the information anytime that we want, and then change our conclusions as new discoveries hit us. My life started changing as I started writing again. I see writing as an opportunity to structure my thoughts more coherently in order to reach to the essence. And now, once we learn how to think, once we learn how to analyze things with more focus and intent, the next step in discovering what we value is to identify patterns. If you follow the example that I used while explaining the process of introspection in the previous episode, you would know that I value people who are independent thinkers, who are experts in what they do, and who enjoy their work. I aspire for and value such qualities. And once I started identifying such values, this value and all the other values that I hold, I started observing the same patterns throughout. For example, I like a character in a movie. A little bit of analysis made me understand that the character portrays the same values as the ones I value. I expanded the analysis further, and it became evident that the friends that I get along with, the people I look up to, the ones that I envy, the political candidates that I admire, the bosses that I really listen to, all had the same qualities. This also becomes the way I judge success and failure. I did not understand the universality of my values earlier, but since I started paying attention to them, or I should say, since I learned the skill of thinking, I realized that my values govern everything in my life. Every choice, every decision, every judgment. Once you start identifying these patterns, your own value structure starts becoming clearer and clearer, and so does your decision-making ability. You would know why you're making the decisions, and you would start predicting the outcomes of those decisions. You would start predicting the reward or the punishment you would get in the form of an emotional response. It is only through the achievement of our values that we experience happiness. So if values are guiding everything in our lives and every experience, then it becomes really crucial to understand how these values get formed. The questions I ask is, do we have a choice, or is it predetermined by destiny? Are we at the mercy of whatever is given to us, or are we the creators of our own values? We can know this once we understand the underlying layers that structure our values. We can know this only once we understand what our values are made of. Why is it that we prefer one value to the other? Say, for example, power to creativity, or security to benevolence, and so on. So in order to move towards happiness, we must know the logic behind the formation of our values. Our values are made up of 3 things: our interests, our needs, and our beliefs. To get to the root of our values, to check whether our values are correctly internalized or are contradictory, to live a life filled with inspiration, meaning, and ultimately happiness, it's crucial to get to the logic of each of these individually. So, let us dig a little deeper and understand how everything is connected. Stay tuned.